Hey everyone, this is me, TimeLiarG, and I'm making a video on this Jagex news post here for Old School RuneScape. It's called New Player Improvements 2025 and Beyond. So before I start reading this, I just want to say, how many updates are you going to make dedicated to normies who can't play video games properly? Or, I'm going to get into something else later. I'll save that for later. But how many updates are you going to make like this? Really? Run energy changes so that they can sprint and get around the game easier, more teleports, making things less time-consuming, like the Castle Wars armor for the collection log. You're ruining veteran players' progress by doing this. You are ruining real players' progress by making the game easier and less time-consuming. I mean, that's just a grindy game. It's not really that hard of a game unless you're doing something like Raids 2. But this is a video game. At what point are you just going to handhold so much that the game just plays itself? Like, are you eventually just going to make bots? Are you going to have it so bots are completely legal to use in the game? Is that what you're going to do? Because at the end of the day, eventually they're not going to be playing the game. The game's just going to be playing itself at that rate. So, you had, like I said, you had those run energy changes. You're removing Moss Giants from the waterfall quest in the game. This was a long time ago. Well, not that long ago. It was like 2017, 2018. You're trying to remove enemies from quests because the new players couldn't even do waterfall quests. What makes you think they're going to eventually do raids? What, are you going to make raids easier then, right? So this is something that's very interesting to me because, I was playing this game in late 2005. That's when I started playing, late 2005. It was around December. And, I was, if I'm 28 now, I think I was really young back then, right? I was just a little kid, and I went out and I explored this world by myself. I didn't need an quote-unquote adventurer John out in Lumbridge to come and hold my hand and give me a nice little thank you present for playing RuneScape. A nice little soy Reddit thank you present telling me to stay in the world of RuneScape and say, hey, here little champ. Hey champ, you want some free steel armor? And instead of going to Wilderness to get the chest piece and then sell it to the shops, you want some, you want me to make the game less time consuming for you, pal, little buddy. You want to go buy some bonds and buy yourself all that armor with real life money because you're such a loser you don't know how to play the game. Go ahead and do that. Go ahead and do that. Get your combat bracelet out. Get your obby cape, or now it's it's that new cape that has like negative magic. I don't know what it gives you, 1+ strength bonus. They're using that instead of fire capes now. And even so, you have players that are actually paying people from other countries to play on their accounts for them. It's so sad and pathetic that they actually need someone to play on their account for them. By the way, Jagex, why do you have a bot? Why do you have the bot? I know it could just be, it's like the iconic Bob, character, but why do you have like a bot signing up for the game right here? Anyway, so this lowers people's IQ by making games easier. Adding yellow paint in all the modern video games and the remakes of older games. You have yellow paint everywhere because people are so like just blind and stupid. They don't know how to climb ladders unless it's painted in yellow. There's a reason why the IQ is dropping around society. It is mostly a United States kind of thing. I'm in the United States. I was born and raised here. But, in the West, there's clearly a problem. And, we could go all the way back. We could say how, Western versus Eastern changes in video games. Like with Japanese video games, how they're harder. Typically, the older ones are typically harder than the American released versions of them, right? The imported versions. This, I guess it kind of always has been a thing, but I don't think it's ever been as severe as it is now with this yellow paint stuff going on. And they even mention a yellow line they want to add to guide people towards the end of Tutorial Island because they noticed a whole lot of players quit right at the start of the game, right? So this is an unnecessary change, making the run energy increase faster. That was that might have been late last year or so, just so they can get around the game faster. And just how long until the game is just going to play itself, right? How long until the game is just going to play itself? Here we go. Before we start lifting up changes, we know you love your stats just as much as we do. You know what the funny thing is? When I first read this, I thought like they were going to say, don't worry, veterans, your stats are safe. We're not going to increase, the XP rates or anything of anything. But no, they're actually talking about player statistics on when they quit the game. This is like a joke. This is like an insult, almost. It's like they're so oblivious. Anyway, a sizable chunk of players who start old school for the first time never make it off Tutorial Island or log out for the final time before completing a single quest. Players who complete a quest are 1.5 times more likely to stick around and become long-term members of the community. And players who complete a quest and gain a combat level are 2 times more likely to stick around and become long-term members of the community. And by the way, I just want to point out, aside from me mentioning how I first started playing in late 2005, around December 2005, when I was a kid, I have a learning disability as well, and I still do. And, I loved exploring the game by myself and taking in the world and it is so immersive when you first play RuneScape for the first time, going around, reading all the books around the world and just talking to characters and whatnot, and it feels very lived in despite, being empty in some areas. Me and my friends used to just go in random houses and pretend that was our little clan guild, right? And we'd go upstairs in certain Varrock houses or around Falador. There was some of those empty houses from back in RS1 where it was planned to have player housing all the way back then, but uninstanced as well, which that would have been really cool. That would have been awesome. Anyway, I find it hilarious that there's soy Redditors that are in their like 30s or 40s or late 20s that don't know how to play video games. And just picture, right? Just picture me as little Timmy. Well, I'm Logan, but I'm just saying little Timmy here, right? Just imagine little Timmy, late 2005, just going through RuneScape and getting all their stats with lower XP rate. Everything was a little bit harder back then in 2005. This is, obviously a 2007 version of the game. That's what old school RuneScape is. It's late RS2. Oh, okay. I wouldn't call 2007 late RS2, but it's pretty late. Now, just imagine little Timmy just playing the game. Nobody's holding his hand. He's earning everything. He is getting everything in the game by himself. It was kind of like playing an Iron Man back then. You couldn't just go to a Grand Exchange and buy everything. There were people buying and selling gold, obviously, here and there, but you know what? Kids, they're not going to go and spend their allowance on RuneScape gold. I mean, it happened. It was even in the news before. It happened. But this is a child that is not being handheld at all. He's learning. He had to learn to get where he is, right? Now imagine that child growing up and seeing 30 or 40-year-old soy Redditors, leftists, going into his hobby, his game, and pretending to be one of him when they didn't earn anything, when they pay for their progress, when they even quit on Tutorial Island, and they're trying to pretend like they're equal. We are not equal here with these normies, okay? We are not. And they will never be equal to us because they didn't earn a single thing. They were handheld all the way through. They went to Adventurer John to go get some really bad items, and then they probably just bought a bond and sold the bond for GP, right? They probably have their friends plan their quote unquote friends plan their accounts for them. We know normies don't really. They're not soulful. They're barely even sentient, and we're gonna get into that definitely because let's have a look at these stats down here. It's just hilarious how man children from Reddit, and they're pretending to go into it's not even just like video game hobbies, it's any kind of hobby. I mentioned this in other videos, but they'll go into like goth communities, furry communities, and they'll say, oh, you can't be in this hobby because of your ideology, your right-wing ideology. You can't be in here because of that. It's like, you guys weren't even here in the past. You just joined up and you're playing all these yellow pink kind of modern games, and you come into RuneScape and acting like you're one of us. You were never here from the start. You were never here in early 2000s furry communities, early 2000s goth communities. Get out of here, dude. You weren't in here, man. We can spot you instantly with your little combat bracelet, your mixed hide cape, that was recently released for these. I'm going to try to hold my language back a little bit. But, okay. We got a lot of data on Tutorial Island, I bet you do, which we've used in conjunction with qualitative feedback from testers to identify the areas we believe could stand to be improved. Here are some highlights. The most common drop-off points for new players, where new players get stuck, any scenario where the player needs to speak to the same NPC again, any scenario where players need to use items together in their inventory, namely lighting a fire or making bread dough, any scenario that involves specific clicks with part of the UI. The two biggest examples here are equipping a sword and shield. Okay, so they can't use car keys on their own car out in real life. They cannot take a shower properly without drowning. So that's what you're telling me here, right? If you can't use two items together, or you can't even click on a sword or shield in your inventory, how did you even download RuneScape, by the way? If you can't click on a sword icon or a shield icon, and I'm just meaning that, the inventory models, the inventory items, the sprites, if you can't click on those, we're not even talking about, anything. We're just literally talking about clicking. So how did you download RuneScape? How did you manage to do that? How did you manage to even buy a computer and turn it on? What the fuck is wrong with you? I apologize for my language, but what the fuck is wrong with you, dude? There's a lot of text on the UI, especially with Transparent Control Guide giving some guidance. Dialogue boxes combine bits of world building, NPC dialogue, and gameplay instructions in a way that can overload players. There's too much text. We have to remove the text because Americans can't read anymore. Dude, oh my... Okay. We have here is a problem. So what you're saying is there's too much text for people to read. Add clearer visual cues to... This is the changes they're planning to make here. Look, currently we're working towards a yellow outline similar to the blue outline, and you'll see... In a similar vein, add an outline highlight to objects that players are expected to interact with. Oh man, dude. Examples of this include doors, gates, trees to chop, a fire to cook your shrimp, everything. Fishing spots, trees, ore, doors, gates. Highlight everything in yellow. Let's just make Yellowscape because normies are fucking fucked in the head. Dude, we share the same streets with these non-sentients. What the fuck? But I think I mentioned this before, but them making changes to quests and everything, making quests easier and less time consuming. And by the way, there was an idiot, I'm not going to mention their name, that said that making Castle Wars less time consuming is great for collection log completionists. It's well, then what's the point of the collection log? You may as well just hand them everything and have it fully auto-completed 100%. What's the point of having a collection log if you agree with making it easier? So now here's a change for the TikTok generation, the broccoli heads. Slightly speeds up woodcutting and fishing action speeds during the tutorial. So for players just starting out, waiting 8 ticks to chop a log can lead them questioning if they're doing something wrong. So they have a less than 2-second attention span. They'll click on your videos and click off instantly. They will... they just listen to rap music and they try to imitate the rappers, which is absurdly racist, by the way. I just want to point that out. And I'm not in any way, I'm not some kind of I'm all for free speech, but I think if you're degenerating yourself so much to where you want to act like other people that you're not, and you're trying to, you're just, these broccoli heads, man, they just listen to the rap music, they listen to their Hollywood TV shows and music, and they don't know how to act properly. They were never educated properly. In school, they had an LGBT Q plus AI, NAACP plus 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 triple QX deluxe edition, school teacher with dyed hair, they them pronouns, she her he him, which those pronouns never existed before, by the way. You can look it up on Google Trends. Yeah, just by being alive back then, you know they never existed. But I know you're just a broccoli head, so it's fine. But go on Google Trends, type in he him she her, and you'll see that. Set it to 2004 to 2025. And you'll see that there was no spikes with it. And even going on Wayback Machine, you'll see that nobody had pronouns in bio. That was a thing that never existed. Okay? You need to be sit down and taught this. You need to actually be taught how to act. All right? What you say, I can't even imitate the Zoomers because they're the ones that, and it's millennials as well. They're talking like this thing for real, no cap, low key. This disgusting, Anyway, hide roofs is going to be on by default now. That's interesting. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention somewhere in here it said that players were having trouble because they couldn't enter buildings properly. They couldn't even enter buildings properly, dude. They can't get. So if you can't click to get inside, a house, how are you actually opening your door in real life? Because that is the same thing. And it's even easier in the game, so I'm not understanding here. You're just clicking to go inside of a building, and you can't even do that. So how do you open your front door to your house? Fucking unbelievable, man. This is unbelievable. Oh, man. At least they said this. I mean, you already transformed it, dude. You already transformed it. You added that new bar that's in Lumbridge. There used to be a bed there. A little house with a bed. And you also added the Hadius Canadius guy outside of Lumbridge Castle, too, with his third age armor and clue scroll items. It's like, what the fuck? In truth, the game's starting areas are full of NPCs who provide useful information. But tracking them down on your own can be tricky. What do you mean? What do you actually mean by this? How are you saying that the NPCs are hard to track down? They're literally right there in the picture. They sit in the same exact areas. What do you mean, dude? What are you talking about? They're talking about decluttering the world map for new players. Okay. You know what, man? Find ways to adjust or rework adventure path. Who the hell uses adventure paths, by the way? Okay, even if a new player starts the game, why would they even do that for steel armor? It's like, okay, you know what? Whatever, man. Whatever. Add a lightweight, beginner-friendly, how to train or give... Wow. Again, this is not... they even admit that it's not going to help too many people, by the way. They even admit that. That's just it, honestly. That's all I had to say, man. Game companies doing this, it's just lowering people's IQ even more.